What's good, everyone, and welcome back to another reaction video. Today we are reacting to Food Theory. Is this the death of Starbucks? I don't know what that means. I'm guessing something's happening when it comes to the coffee community, and there's like a new drink or something that's causing a lot of people to go to somewhere else than Starbucks. I don't know. That's my assumption based on the title itself. I don't know what else is going on. I don't know what kind of cup is this. Looks like a coffee cup. I can't say for sure, but we're gonna find out in a moment. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification button to be notified immediately when your video comes out. If there's any videos you'd like to recommend that I should react to, put it down in the comments section below and I'll react to it as soon as possible. The link to this video is going to be down in the description below, so be sure to give Food Theory some love and support for the video that they made. Now with this all said, let's get on to this video, shall we? Okay, so what's up here?
Starbucks is getting way too expensive. And at the same time, a new coffee brand has just landed on US shores, and it's coming for blood. You may not know them quite yet, but you will soon. This is the story of why the mermaid needs to fear the deer. Hello, Internet! Welcome to Food Theory, the show that would like a venti iced caramel macchiato with soy milk and an extra pump of vanilla for nearly $7. Yeesh! I knew Starbucks was getting pricey, but my God, there has to be a better way to get my morning cup of joe than this. Well, luckily, there is. Or should I say, luckinly. You'll get that in a second. Luckin Coffee is a relatively new coffee chain that has absolutely exploded in popularity in China. In fact, there are more than 3 times as many Luckin locations in China as there are Starbucks. And more recently, Luckin has set their sights on the lucrative US coffee market, opening their first American locations late last year. And you know what? We got a few minutes until my coffee's ready, so care to indulge me for a bit? Because the more I dove into Luckin Coffee's bold new strategy and comparing it to Starbucks' recent stumblings, the more it seems that Luckin, a non-US brand, might actually be poised to steal Starbucks customers right out from underneath them. I'm not kidding. But let's start off how this relatively unknown Chinese brand grew to be so dominant. Compared to coffee juggernauts like Starbucks and Dunkin', who have been around for decades and built up years of brand loyalty, Luckin is practically a baby, only coming onto the scene less than a decade ago. And in that short time, Luckin has already experienced the sorts of highs and lows that most companies would spend years dealing with, only to come out stronger than a black coffee on the other side. Luckin opened its first locations in Beijing and Shanghai around 2017, and almost immediately it started roasting the competition. In just its first year of business, it grew to over 1,300 stores, becoming the second largest coffee chain in all of China, behind, well, you know who. At one point in 2018 and 2019, Luckin was opening as many as 5 new stores per day. That's lunacy. Clearly, the dollars, or should I say the yuan, were rolling in. But it wasn't just customers who were throwing their cold brewed cash at Luckin. Investors were taking note as well. Luckin raised millions of dollars in fundraising. And despite not operating any US stores yet, in 2019, Luckin Coffee began being listed on the US stock exchange, breaking a record for the fastest Chinese company to ever get listed on the NASDAQ. At this point, the sky was the limit for Luckin. All they had to do was keep expanding like crazy, keep serving up their signature coconut lattes, and not lie to investors about their financials. They forgot the last one, didn't they? Yeah, a short-selling company known as Muddy Waters Research ended up spilling the beans on Luckin's finances. They published a report saying that Luckin had been consistently fudging their numbers a bit behind the scenes to boost investor confidence. And when I say fudge them a bit, what I actually mean is they completely fabricated around 2.2 billion yuan, around 315 million US dollars in revenue in 2019, which made up about half of the company's supposed revenue at the time.
Oh damn, they're playing with fire there, because that... Wait, could that actually bring legal trouble? I'm not too
How
sure.
are they able to just make up hundreds of millions of dollars? like that? I'm glad you asked, internet stranger. Step 1 of this scheme involved friends, associates, and even Luckin employees buying large amounts of redeemable coffee vouchers, inflating how much coffee Luckin was actually selling. Then Luckin would pay back those generous buyers through the purchase of raw materials and marketing. This essentially meant that Luckin was buying millions of dollars of their own coffee. And despite firing all the executives that were involved in the scheme, Luckin Coffee's luck had run out. Their stock price dropped by around 76%. They were forced to pay nearly $200 million in taxes. The stock was delisted entirely from the NASDAQ. And in 2021, Luckin Coffee filed for bankruptcy in the US. And that's where this story should have ended. A coffee chain that, like Icarus, probably hopped up on too much caffeine, flew too close to the sun, and got burned. But fast forward to 2026, and Luckin just keeps on trucking. Not only have they rebounded from getting their metaphorical mouth burned for all to see, they are bigger than ever. Not only has Luckin managed to pass Starbucks to become the biggest coffee chain in China, but Luckin has 3x'd them. Today, there are over 30,000 Luckin locations worldwide. That's more locations than there are Starbucks and Dunkin's in the US combined. But what I didn't understand was why Luckin had gotten so
Sanji?
Actually, we need to talk about Starbucks first, because it wasn't just luckin' out that led to their meteoric rise. Starbucks has been serving up nothing but cups of L's for the past couple years. Let's start in China, because once upon a time, Starbucks' success in China was nothing short of a miracle. Prior to Starbucks entering the Chinese market, coffee just wasn't a thing there. For, and I'm not exaggerating here, thousands of years, China had been a tea-drinking society. And so, when Starbucks opened its first Chinese location all the way back in 1999, people said they were crazy. Turns out, coffee's pretty freaking addictive, and Starbucks not only managed to get a foothold into the Chinese market, but it made the Chinese coffee market. But fast forward to today, and the Chinese attitude towards Starbucks is a bit more lukewarm. Can you guess why? Go ahead, guess. Click the subscribe button to lock it in. Yeah, it's expensive there, too. In China, a 16-ounce cup of coffee, a grande, costs around 33 yuan, or about $4.78. The same sized Luckin coffee costs literally 1/3 the price. So yeah, for a third of the price, you can see why there's 3 times as many Luckin locations across China. Although, to be fair, according to one study done in China, Starbucks still ranks #1 in quality and #2 in overall value, behind Luckin. But anecdotally, I've heard people in China say that Starbucks is twice the price and half as good. So, who's to say? Either way, despite getting a nearly 2-decade head start, Luckin swooped in and stole Starbucks' lunch money in China. And in the US, things for Starbucks have only gone from bad to worse. They had several quarters of slumping sales, their stock had fallen a full 40%.
So a lot of the stuff that's going on is mainly due to the overpricing of certain drinks that Starbucks has been producing. Okay. Which is pretty weird, because I'm pretty sure at a certain time in the recent years, it used to be 4 something for a drink, and that a large would be 75 cents more. You see the issue there, right?
And they had 3 CEOs in 2 years. Not exactly a recipe for success. If they were going to turn things around, they needed to bring in the big guns. And they did. Starbucks hired a man by the name of Brian Niccol as their new CEO. This guy wasn't just some random Joe Schmo. At his previous jobs, Niccol had developed a reputation as fast food's Mr. Fix-It. As the head of Taco Bell, he opened up its Cantina restaurant, started serving breakfast, and added new items to the menu, including the nacho fries and, oh yeah, the Doritos Locos Tacos, arguably the greatest invention in fast food history. Most recently, he led the turnaround over at Chipotle. Niccol managed to turn years of declining sales and multiple bacterial outbreaks into, get this, an 800% increase in revenue in just 5 years. You can sort of understand why Starbucks spent over $85 million in both cash and stocks in order to convince Niccol to leave Chipotle and become their new head barista. So what was Mr. Fix-It's solution to fixing Starbucks' woes? Well, it all has to do with this right here.
The reason why we're in the midst of a turnaround is we kind of just lost our focus. The focus for Starbucks historically was all about creating that third place where there's a moment of humanity.
According to Niccol, Starbucks lost its true coffee shop vibe, where customers could sit and relax in a place that wasn't their home or work. You know, a third place. And from a business perspective, this all sort of makes sense. If customers spend more time in the stores, they're more likely to spend more, i.e. cha-ching profit. But that marks a big change from how Starbucks had previously been operating. In recent recent years, Starbucks had been a leader in mobile ordering, including having several locations that were pickup only. They were only focused on through rate, not the experience. But instead, Starbucks has decided to ditch the mobile-only locations because they, quote, lack warmth, and Nickel has instituted a new policy that requires baristas to write personal little handwritten notes on customers' cups, which baristas hated. Starbucks has also started to swap out the furniture in stores and bring back the fan-favorite ceramic mugs.
I'm pretty sure I've seen a few baristas act pretty negatively to the whole writing on cup thing,
to make customers feel more comfortable and choose to stay and pay a higher price. And speaking of price, in 2025, Starbucks promised to not raise their menu prices for the whole year. But that's not to say that things got cheaper. They started by ditching many of their in-app deals, meaning more people paying full price. And when asked if the 2025 price freeze would continue into the new year, Nickel didn't say yes, which means it's a no. In fact, according to him,
are you thinking about price cuts?
You know, when I look at where our pricing is right now, like brewed coffee, I think you're going to see that we are priced very competitively.
Yeah, if the competition is who can make the most overpriced coffee, I'd say Starbucks is pretty competitive. According to Nickel, they want Starbucks to feel like it has that premium experience all over again, saying nothing about the premium prices people have been complaining about. But the question is, will this all work for Starbucks? Hard to say. Ditching the mobile-focused model is definitely a risk. According to a study done by the app Placer, mobile orders make up almost a third of Starbucks orders. And the fact of the matter is, for many people who are looking for their coffee in the morning, no amount of comfy chairs and ceramic mugs are going to convince them to stay. According to that same study, almost 2/3 of all Starbucks visitors spend less than 10 minutes in store. And all of these big changes to the company are going to take time to develop. In the meantime, Starbucks, even under Nickel, has continued to see US revenue decline for 6 straight quarters, only for it to just recently bounce back. In late 2025, Starbucks kicked off a $1 billion Back to Starbucks restructuring plan, which included closing 400 underperforming stores in cities like Los Angeles and Chicago, and 34 stores in New York City. And speaking of New York City, while Starbucks is looking to pull back its presence in the Big Apple, a certain other coffee chain is ready to swoop in and fill the void left by the Green Apron Gang. Last summer, Luckin Coffee, for the first time in its history, opened up locations in the US, arriving in none other than New York City. And Luckin is going all in, essentially attempting to pin themselves as the anti-Starbucks. And let's be real, the anti-Starbucks is definitely going to be an appealing label to many disgruntled coffee drinkers. So I think it's time we see what all the hubbub is about. The first thing you'll notice that's different when walking into a Luckin is that there's no cashier. Remember all those mobile-only locations that Starbucks recently ditched for their new premium experience? Well, that's all Luckin does. All orders are made through the app. Not only does it save a bit of money for Luckin in the overhead, but that also means no waiting for cash transactions, no cards getting declined while waiting in line, and no having to explain that my name is Santi, not Sanji. Every time. All of this serves to shrink the excruciating time between me wanting coffee and coffee being inside of me. Yeah, I heard it. And on top of that, having a mobile-only model is attractive to younger customers, especially those who don't want to chit-chat before having their morning bean juice. Of course, for older customers who, let's be honest, are bigger coffee drinkers than Gen Z, being forced to use an app to buy a simple cup of coffee can be a bit off-putting. Luckin is banking that younger customers in 2026 don't actually want to spend much time inside of their coffee shop, and instead want to get on with their day. But you know what fellow young people like me do like? Fun drinks! Beside their flagship drink, the coconut latte, the Luckin menu also includes other IG and TikTokable drinks like the apple fizzy Americano, the Yigrish, this flat white, and yes, of course, even matcha. And over on their IG page, they're leaning heavy on that Mimi Gen Z humor. Oh, and they even ran a challenge where they encouraged you to visit every location to get stickers. Who doesn't love stickers? Of course, the only thing that really matters to young consumers these days is price. How much does a Luckin coffee run you stateside? In New York City, a regular-sized Luckin coffee is about $5.75, while at Starbucks, the equivalent size cup is $5.95? That's not as cheap as I thought it would be. But as it turns out, customers rarely, if ever, pay the sticker price. The Luckin Coffee app is practically overflowing with coupons and deals. For example, when you first sign up for the app, you get a coupon to get any drink for $1.99. But that's not all for the app. They have a ton of refer a friend bonuses, customized promotions like discounts on your favorite drinks, and free upgrades if you haven't visited recently. They also have special deals that trigger whenever you're physically near the store. which I'm not exactly thrilled about my coffee shop having an algorithm, but even if it's dystopian, if it's anything like the TikTok algorithm, it'll certainly be effective. So is Starbucks about to be bucked by the buck? Luckin sure seems to think so. But at the time of recording, there are only 10 locations in the US. And not only are all of them in just New York City, but they're all in just Manhattan. But clearly, if Luckin's previous rapid expansion in China is any indication, then that might change soon. In fact, like most chain restaurants, Luckin numbers their different locations. But, for example, instead of numbering their second location, location number 2, they call it location number 00002, which tells you they think they'll be filling up that counter pretty soon. With that, Starbucks, the poster child for major coffee chains both in the US and abroad, are on the back foot. They're completely changing their business model to focus on a premium, well-off audience while abandoning the cost and time-sensitive younger consumer. Luckin, meanwhile, is seeing this new hole that Starbucks is opening up in the market and is preparing to pounce. They're like, hey, we're young, we're affordable, we see that Starbucks has left you behind, why don't you give us a try? So will this lead to Luckin completely overtaking Starbucks as the world's coffee giant? Maybe, but in the meantime, Starbucks is sure looking like a deer in headlights. But hey, that's just a theory. A food theory.
So, we got the fact that Luckin is advancing pretty well into the territory of coffee selling mainly in New York and the American concept or something like that. I think I said the wrong word in all honesty. It was just the one that came to mind. But you get the point. Basically, Starbucks bigger drinks is now getting replaced by Luckin, which is something. There's just a lot to really say about that in all honesty. But we get the point basically. Starbucks decided to increase prices and all that, and it bit them in the butt. And they had to soon or eventually give us some stuff. So yeah, that's something to think about. Anyway, with this all said, I hope you all enjoy this video. Like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think about this theory in the comment section below. I would really like to hear your opinion on this matter. Other than that, hope you all enjoy, and I'll be sure to see you all in the next one. Bye!